Heyo everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Dribble, the show where we take a closer look into the Boston Celtics, the rest of the NBA, and whatever else might come up. I, of course, am Luke Irwin, and I am your host. We're still in the ho-hum doldrums of January in the NBA. A little bit of a lull in the season, not too much going on, but as always, we have a great show for you planned today. We head to a block party with the Celtics. Potential game of the year, we discussed that. And the Celtics this year have been homebodies, which I'm not worried about it, but I'm a little bit worried about it. We'll talk about it. Then, when you hear this sound, that means it is time to shut up about the Celtics. Enough about the Celtics. Let's move on to the rest of the NBA. Again, we have a special episode this week of Major Wager, where Tim and I are going to talk about our previous bets from last week, which ones hit, which ones did not, check up on the Major Wager competition. But then also, we're going to place a new kind of bet on Major Wager. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a fun episode. Plus, like every single week, I'm going to look ahead to some games around the NBA that I think are important in this upcoming week, along with the Celtics slate of games coming up. So much to get into. And I suggest we do. Because this is The Dribble. Okay, so I want to start this episode off with a quick check-in on the Derek White and Jrue Holiday block counter. In case you missed it, Jrue Holiday sent me a handwritten, very beautiful, sentimental, personal letter around New Year's telling me what his New Year's resolution was. And his New Year's resolution, Jrue Holiday's, was to catch Derek White in total block counts. And that was from in the beginning of the season. Jrue Holiday and Derek White were joking with reporters, basically saying that they would keep a tally throughout the whole entire year on who has more blocks throughout the season, because obviously both of them are top defensive guards in the NBA, and it's certainly the best defensive duo paired together, but individually as defenders, they are cream of the crop as far as guard defense in the NBA. So it's been interesting to watch. Currently, the block party is owned by the great White Derek. Derek White has 42 blocks on the season, which is second amongst guards in the NBA. First is Scotty Barnes, who has an insane 57 blocks, which is so much. But he's kind of more of a small forward. He's a larger guard. Wouldn't say he's like a traditional guard, but Derek White's right there with 42 blocks on the season, and Derek White has 13 more blocks than the next guard on the list, who is Alex Caruso, who rings in 29 blocks, which 29 blocks for a guard is still high, but 42 through this pace of the season for a guard is really incredible. Shout out to Derek White. Derek White also only has one less block than Giannis Antetokounmpo. One less block. Antetokounmpo, Giannis, the Greek Freak, has 43, and Derek White has 42. He also has a super high block percentage rate. He has a higher block percentage rate than Giannis. So essentially, you have a better chance of scoring on Giannis in the paint and not getting blocked than you do Derek White. So any NBA players watching The Dribble, again, I know all of you are fans of The Dribble. You watch this religiously. So just know that if you're driving into the paint and you see Derek White, that means don't go in there. But if you see Giannis, chances are you're probably going to be able to get a layup. So that's something to keep in mind. But Jrue, you are on the chase. You don't have quite as many as Derek. Derek has 42, like I said, but you do have 27. So that's 15 less than Derek. So you got a little bit of catch up to play. But 27 blocks for a guard is still really good. So tap yourself on the back for that. You are top 5. You're number 5 with guards as far as blocks. And Jrue Holiday, you have a higher block percentage rate than DeAndre Ayton. So, hell yeah, that's it. That's pretty cool. That's the check-in with the block party there. Basically, these two defenders are insanely good. Obviously, we love Derek White, we love Jrue Holiday protecting the perimeter, but when it gets down into the paint, they hold their own, and they really can guard 1 through 5, which is an excellent thing to have. Obviously, Tatum will get switched on to anybody. He has a lot of length. He has a lot of athleticism. He has a lot of power, strength. Brown is, of course, an excellent defender, and then Porzingis and Horford can protect the perimeter, but they can also protect the rim down low. But having Jrue and Derek on the floor together is insane. There's nobody on the floor that they can't guard, especially in today's mobile kind of flexible play, the modern basketball. They are just amazing. So shout out to them at the block party. Let's go ahead and review some of the Celtics games this past week. Let's start. So the Celtics had a split. They had 4 games this week, and they won 2 of them, lost 2 of them. Let's talk about the first game. The first game, which was a loss to the Indiana Pacers. Yeah, it looks like we play the Pacers in Indiana every single day. It's relentless. It feels like we're always playing Indiana, and we play them again, by the way. That'll be 5 times this year playing Indiana because of the in-season tournament, which is just strange to do. We just don't play them that often. In this game, the Pacers won 133. The Celtics were 131. Close game, 2-point game. Jason Tatum sat out in this game because of some soreness that he's been experiencing in his ankle. And I like to think that this is just an excuse or like a workaround for the new NBA's new resting star players rule, where you can't rest a star player, you get fined, or the player gets fined, and you can't rest him for more than this amount of time. And I think that Tatum has ailing injuries, but I hope that we keep seeing this ankle injury pop up on the injury report just because he's trying to have an excuse to rest a game here and there, because he does play a lot of minutes, especially for a superstar, and as being a two-way player too. So that's something to keep an eye on, though, because he has that. He's also been pulling on the wrist that he had surgery on, and he's always had issues with ever since the finals appearance. He's been pulling on that, so it seems to be like he has a couple things that are nagging him at the moment. Just something to look into. Like I said, hopefully what he's dealing with is simply him trying to find a way to get rest throughout the season without having to be fined or take a rest game. So this was one of those situations. So it's just something to look at. This game, though, had Brown stepping up big in JT's shoes. We lost, but he did pour in 40 points. It's strange. All of the team stats in this game were pretty equal. This, I think, kind of came down to Jason Tatum just not being in the game. 2 high-level offenses and a team in the Pacers who, when they do decide to play defense, they play pretty well. All of the stats that I'm about to mention were the same, essentially, but with a standard deviation or deviation of 3, right, plus or minus 3. So all of these stats that I'm about to mention, the team stats, total team game stats, were within 3 of each other. And that's total points, total rebounds, total assists, total steals, total blocks, total turnovers, fast break points, field goal percentage, and 3-point field goal percentage. So essentially all of the major categories as far as team statistics go, these 2 teams were dead even. Most of these were exactly the same, but all of them had a deviation of plus minus 3. So every single one of these stats were right in line. So it was a great game. I mean, we've played this team so many times, and we're going to play them one more time before the year's over, and we're probably going to play this team again in the playoffs if things continue how they look like they are. See them in round 1, maybe round 2, depending on where the Celtics are in the lineup. So this is an important thing to kind of feel out the other team, and it looks like that's what we've kind of done, and we've reached a point where both of these teams play, and they play pretty tight, they play pretty similar, and they kind of know each other's tendencies, know how to play. But the next game is the game that I really want to talk about. This game, to me, so far has been, or was, the game of the year for the Boston Celtics. Such an exciting game. Oh my God. Earlier in the season, we lost to the Timberwolves. Timberwolves come to Boston now, and we look to get a little bit of revenge, right? Like I said, we lost in Minnesota earlier in the season, and we talked about this last week. This team has an identity, and that identity is to play mad. I love to see it. I really do. It's great to see this team step onto the floor, remembering what a team did to them, said to them, beat them, whatever it might be, and use that as motivation. The Celtics 127, the Timberwolves 120. And one thing before I dive into this game and kind of what made it so great, something really weird happened in this game. So in the third quarter, I think it was, there was a call by the refs where it was both a foul, a blocking foul, and a charge on the same exact play, which is so weird. That doesn't make any sense. That can't happen. For anybody wondering, that can't happen. On the 2 players involved in the play, on the man with the ball and on the defender guarding the ball. There was a blocking foul, meaning a defensive foul, and an offensive foul, a charge, called on those 2 players. And what happened was one ref called the charge, one ref called the blocking foul, and they kind of looked at each other. And usually that happens all the time. That's normal when Two refs have a different call, but then they confer typically, and then they decide, okay, nope, we're going to go offensive foul, or okay, nope, we're going to go defensive foul. And in this one, they were like, we don't want to upset anybody, so let's just go with both. And they gave one offensive foul to a Celtic, and then they gave a defensive foul to one of the Timberwolves players, which is just ridiculous. And then for possession, they just had a jump ball from the two players. That is impossible. That does not work. That's not how. That doesn't make any sense. That's physically impossible to do, to have there both be an offensive and defensive foul. So shout out to the refs this season for being trash, ejecting star players all the time, deciding games late, and taking the full momentum basically out of most close games. Refs, you've been real annoying this year, and it's just fitting that this year you decide to give maybe the first ever blocking and charge on the same play. Doesn't make any sense, but alas, the Timberwolves have now lost 17 straight to the Boston Celtics in Boston. Obviously, we lost in Minnesota, and we've lost in Minnesota before that. But the Celtics have now beaten them 17 times in a row in Beantown in Boston. The last time that the Minnesota Timberwolves won a game in Boston, it was March 6th, 2005. That's when Kevin Garnett was on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yikes. I think that was his MVP year, too. So it's taken an MVP KG to beat the Celtics. But yeah, so that's funny. It's been since 2005. But this was close. They almost made it happen. They almost got a win in Beantown. They had a 7-point lead with 2 minutes to go in the final frame. They held it. They brought us to overtime, where we haven't been that great this year. I think we're about 500 now in overtime. But this game was Jason Tatum's game, okay? He had 45 points in this game in 42 minutes, which we talked about Tatum on time last week. He's still on time in this game. And he shot 50% from the floor and over 50% from three. But it was really his clutch shooting. We all know Tatum is amazing. But can Tatum come up, show up in the big moments, in the clutch moments? That has always been something that people hold against him. I think he can. I think he always has shown it. Game 6 in Milwaukee, 46 points, a couple of years ago. 51 points, Game 7. Against the Sixers. He shows time and time again. A game winner against the Sixers last year. A game winner in round 1 against Kevin Durant and the Nets in the year we went to the finals. Just because of one bad finals appearance and a couple moments where the Celtics don't know where to get the ball late, and people say that he's not clutch, but he is clutch. And in this game, he was clutch. Tatum scored 26 points in the fourth quarter and overtime. He checked into the fourth at the 8-minute mark, so that means he scored 26 points in that 8 minutes plus the 5-minute overtime, 13 minutes. 26 points, 13 minutes. That's 2 points a minute of play in a clutch game where they were down and we needed him against the top defense, the number 1 scoring defense in the NBA, in the Minnesota Timberwolves. Jason Tatum did that. They're first in points, the Timberwolves defense are, and they're first in opponent field goal percentage. But he was 8 for 13 in the fourth quarter and overtime, which is 62%. So clearly, they couldn't hold that opponent's field goal percentage down. The Timberwolves had trouble keeping his field goal percentage down. 62% in the fourth and overtime. Absolutely took this game over. He took 9 shots in the paint in this game. He was aggressive. He was decisive. He shot the three well. It was just really great. And also, he like I said, he was aggressive. He got to the line 14 times, made 13 and 14 free throws, and just willed us to a win. And it seemed like every single time the Minnesota Timberwolves tried to stretch it out, he shut the door. They tried to stretch it out, he shut the door. And then at the end, obviously, he makes I'm going to show it right here, ill crossover on Karl Anthony Towns to get to the rack, hits that, runs back on defense. Drew Holiday traps Anthony Edwards in the corner, steal. He comes by, and then watch this. As all the traffic is flowing this way towards the basket, he notices that, stops on a dime, pulls back, gets the pass from Drew Holiday, bang, kiss goodnight, and that was the game. And that's just, if he's, we've talked about it every week on the Dribble, but if he's developing into that player, look out, rest of the league, look out. Because, man, this was just an electric game. This was just clutch, electric, against a great defense and against another superstar in Anthony Edwards. So, what a fun one. He also was guarding Cat and Ant-Man on the other end. he would hit the bucket, right? He would hit a huge bucket, hit a big three, work hard for a free throw, whatever it might be, get fouled, and then on the other end, sprint right back and guard Anthony Edwards on the other end. It's not like he's an offensive player, then we hide him on defense. He's marked up on Karl Anthony Towns, who is a great offensive player in this league and who was really, really adamant on getting to the basket, but Tatum was there with him. And he not there, switch out to Anthony. Him and JB. JB also took Ant-Man. It just was having those two players that are so good such good two-way players is such a treat to have. And like I said, let's not forget JB, who had his own game in this one, right? He was in his own bag early on, and he had 35 points in this game, 11 rebounds, great double-double for him. Just was a great game. And another weird thing, like the Pacers game, this was another kind of game where each important stat had a standard deviation of plus minus 3, right? Field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage, rebounds, assists, turnovers, largest lead, were all within 3 for both these teams. So, just a close one. And this came down to Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards, you're amazing, but maybe you're a little bit too young in these moments, you know? He just didn't play that well down the stretch. Ant-Man was 1 for 7 in the fourth quarter in overtime. Not really getting it done there, with 3 turnovers in that time span too. So they trust him with the ball, which obviously you should. Like I said, he's a superstar in this league, but down the stretch, it was just about our superstar was better tonight than your superstar. And we'll see what happens. I would love to face this team in the finals. I just think it's gone to overtime twice in a row against these teams. I just think it would be such a fun game to see. But the next game, they can't all be fun. Right, guys? They can't all be fun. The next game was, I don't really want to talk about it. I don't even think we're going to talk about it. And people might be like, whoa, what? You don't want to talk about this game where we got crushed by the Bucks in a score of 135 to 102? You don't want to talk about that game? No, I don't want to talk about that game because I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it, right? Look, I could sit here and wax poetic about how the Celtics all had major minutes. It was a second night of a back-to-back after that amazing Timberwolves game that I just talked about. And that, everybody was so tired and they played too many minutes. And of course, the Bucks had 3 days of rest coming into this game. And the Celtics played so many minutes. So of course, they were all energized on the Bucks side and the Celtics couldn't get it going. But I'm not going to do that, because I don't make excuses. And in the playoffs, you're going to need to be able to overcome some tiredness. So that's not an excuse. I'm not going to say that. I could say that, but I'm not going to. What I am going to say is I'm just not worried. The Bucks shot the 3-point ball out of the gate at a super high efficiency, and the Celtics didn't. At one point, we were 1 for 17 from 3. 1 for 17 from 3. So this is just an NBA game, and I'm not worried about the Bucks. Right? If we lose like this to the Heat or someone like that I don't like playing, I'd be mad. But I'm not worried about it. I'm really not worried about it. I know somebody who says I'm not worried about it over and over again usually is worried about it, but I'm not worried about it because I'm not scared of the Bucks. And maybe I'll eat my words in the playoffs. Maybe. But I'm just not, who cares? We lost, they outshot us. We were fresh off a back-to-back. I said I wouldn't say that, but I just said that. But I'm just not worried about it. I took the result of this game with a grain of salt. Celtics starters got pulled, which, if anything, I like that, If anything, I like that a lot, that they got pulled. Because hopefully it makes them mad. And like I said before, the identity of this team is to play mad. So I'm just not worried about. But what I am worried about, very worried about, in fact, is that we lost this game on the road. Yes, the Celtics are 19-0, largest home win streak and largest home start for the Boston Celtics, but that means we are 11-9 on the road. Now that worries me. I'm not worried about the Bucks. We blew them out earlier this year, and we got blown out by them this year, and we'll see them in the playoffs, I'm sure. And we beat them every year in the playoffs, basically, except one year that we had Kyrie ruining our team. So I'm just not worried about the Bucks. I think we match up well against them. Also, Al Horford didn't play in this game. And Al Horford is the Giannis stopper. Everybody knows that. So I'm not worried about it. But, like I said, I am worried about the 11-9 away record. We don't play well in other people's buildings. And in those losses, we've lost to Charlotte, Orlando, and Golden State. 3 not very good teams. Losing to those teams is just not good. And they're all on the road. like I said, the good thing about this team is that our identity is mad. We play mad. We care, and that's great for this team. We clearly care. We could easily be a team of stars who kind of a little bit diva-ish, don't really care, like lose some games, don't really care about your record. But we clearly take things personally, and unfortunately, the Rockets were in our warpath after losing big to the Bucks. We just handed the Rockets a terrible beatdown, 145 to 113. This one was over before it even started. The Rockets are a good team, but they just aren't ready. I think they're a little bit young. They're not really complete top to bottom. And the Celtics are that. They are complete. They have experience. They have young, energy, but they have a lot of experience. And it is so encouraging when the identity of a team like this with so much talent is to play mad. And they've just been playing mad. And I love, personally as a fan, I love watching this Celtics team dismantle their next meal after a loss, right? They have a bad loss, and then they just devour whoever it is next, right? It's carnal, it's primal, it's beautiful, it's nature. It really is. And I'm sorry, Rockets, Houston Rockets, but a meal you maketh, and a meal you were, a delicious meal. So that was a good thing to get back on track. And, you know what that means? It is time to shut up about the Celtics. Let's move on to the rest of the NBA. We have a great segment of Major Wager this week. Super excited for it. We're going to go over our bets. I'm going to bring him in here in a little bit. You know his name. Say it with me. It's Timmy. Timmy KGB, a.k.a. T-bone steak extra rare. Not a drip of hollandaise. Let's bring him in, because you already know what the segment is. Let's just start it off right. This is Major Wager. What's up, Timmy? How you doing, bud?
I'm good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm ready for a great Major Wager. I'm ready.
Aren't they all great? Really?
They are all great. I did not mean to discriminate. You're right. They are all great. You know what else was great? We had a great slate of games for the Celtics. What did you think about the past week for the boys in green?
Oh, some up, some down, right?
Yeah.
We went 2-2 this week. Pretty bad showings against the Pacers. That's a frustrating game with no Tatum, and obviously the Bucks was just a big stink fest. Yeah, I watched the first quarter. I think you did too. Like, come on, it was just one of those games we just no showed. But yeah, man, some good wins. That Minnesota win was awesome, and the Rockets one too. But yeah, I was impressed by that one, the Minnesota one in particular. We talked 2 episodes ago about those New Year's resolutions, and mine was that, or one of mine was that they needed to sort of tighten up the late game execution, right? That was sort of the lingering thing for me. It's like, in those close games, those overtime games, we get stagnant.
Yeah.
We sort of panic. It was as if, Tatum in particular and the Celtics in general listened to Major Wager and thought, I'm going to show Tim just how we can execute. So, yeah, I was impressed. I mean, we were down by 7 with under 3 to go. And yeah, just Tatum, put the game away. He was brilliant in this one. Scored 18 of their final 25, 45 points in all. Outscored Minnesota by himself in overtime. That step back over Towns. And it was a mixed sort of assault. Like, you had the isolation, that step back, and it was filthy. And he was just
That's him. That's his shot. That's
in the
that's
past
his
2
bread and
games
butter.
at home. I mean, in particular, I mean, he's just a flamethrower. But him and Brown too. But it was making ISO shots, getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line, and then just that play. When he missed that second free throw and Derek White gets the rebound, swings it to Horford, finds the open man and Holiday in the corner. It was just great to see them pull that out, and especially great because down 7 with 3 minutes to go. I'm thinking this home win streak's over.
Yeah, and it wasn't
at what? Yeah, 17.
Yeah, 17, and it wasn't a case of that would have been at 17. That one was for 18. It wasn't a case of the Minnesota Timberwolves missing shots down the stretch either. They were nailing threes. I mean, Kyle Anderson was playing out of his mind. Cat hit 2 huge threes in under 2 minutes. So it wasn't like they went cold and we got hot. We just played poised. And Tatum had 20. I talked about this earlier in the pod, but Tatum had 26 points in the fourth quarter in overtime. And he checked into the fourth quarter with 8 minutes left. So 13 minutes of play, and he had 26 points.
The Jays in general have just been awesome.
Yeah.
In that game and in the Houston game, they combined for 80 in the Minnesota game, I think. That
Yep.
Jalen pitched in with 35 pitched in. Like 35 is a huge number.
Yeah.
Also, Jalen, want to give him his flowers or whatever. Great defense on Ant. Especially in overtime. Like it was sort of the inverse of the previous Minnesota game where, Tatum was forcing stuff and just didn't look good. At the end of it, Edwards just sort of looked like he was forcing the offense, and I think
Yeah.
that was
He was
Jalen. Great defense from Jalen.
Jalen plays such good lockdown defense on those athletic kind of guys because
Yeah.
Jalen obviously is so athletic. And then JT also was taking cat. Like I noticed that it was, which is awesome. I mean, you have your guy JT going down, hitting threes and driving. He had, I think, 9 attempts in this game at the rim for JT. That's pretty high. And so he was being aggressive. He had 14 free throw attempts in this game, JT did. And so to see him going in his bag on offense, but then being like, I'll take their center
Yeah.
on defense down the stretch. I mean,
And
then
finding that same matchup on offense when he was on offense, just like getting the switch, getting Cat on him.
Yep.
It felt very deliberate. The whole thing the execution felt really purposeful from the Celtics. So it was a great win. And then the Rockets game was more of a blowout, but it was just nice to see after that. After that god awful like Bucks no show. So yeah, I would say good week overall. Besides
yeah, right. Yeah. Solid week, especially solid week at home. But first, not so solid week for me. Let's transition to last week's bets. I am sinking. I am the Titanic, and the iceberg is well behind us at this point. So we had a couple interesting bets. I took another Rockets leap. I've been doing that lately. I've been picking the Rockets a lot. Shout out to my buddy Chris Langone, who texted me to stop betting on the Rockets. Apparently I bet on them every other week. But
this is a gambling problem no one else has. It's just I bet on the Rockets too much, man. I gotta stop.
Just those Rockets, they're so enticing.
Yeah.
I gotta bet on them. I bet Rockets money line at plus 164, and I bet $200.
Yeah, that was I didn't say anything really when you did that, but I was like, wow, dude feels real strong about the Rockets against the Heat.
I don't know. I got Rocket fever. I don't know what it is, but that dropped me all the way down. I lost, obviously. They lost to the Heat in that game, and they were down the whole time. And even no Jimmy buckets, it's just still wasn't happening. So I'm down to $610. Meanwhile, Timmy, you got the Bulls -6, which of course they won the game, so they got that, and they definitely cleared. And then you also had them first to 20 points. And that was at a plus 168 with that parlay, which you won, which won you $258, leaving you at $958 to my 610.
Yeah, it's a bit of a lead. Yeah, that one was fun. I had never done that sort of parlay with the first to 20 points, but I looked at their last few games. Bulls tending to get out to good leads, and that cleared. But the cover was harder. I mean, they were like hovering between. They were up 3, 4. It was like how they're gonna win, but they're not gonna cover. But I think they ended up winning by 8. So
it was 8, or it might have even been 7. Either way, it was so close.
It was close.
Yeah.
But they did it.
They did it, and
my
the
Bulls,
Rockets
my
did
Kobe
not.
White Bulls.
Look, I think I'm not going to say I'm done betting on the Rockets, but because I've been high on them all year with Hope's Hotel, I put them high. I like Ime. I wish he was still a Celtics coach. I love you, Joe. I know Joe, again, Joe's one of those guys who watches the Dribble a lot. So Joe, I'm not like Joe Mazzulla, love you as a head coach, but I miss Ime. I love Ime, and I like Şengün. I love Green. They just got some good players. I'm big on them. But I just think they're not there yet at all. They need one more piece, and they have no experience on their team.
Yeah, no, some good pieces. Obviously, we love Şengün, but I don't know. They're a 500 basketball club, literally right now. I think they're 19-19. So
yeah, but let's win some money back. Tim, you said you had a good idea. Instead of doing just another, Monday game pick, let's hear what you got. Let's change things up. What's their next bet?
So I have just been fixated, like much of Celtics Nation, on the perfect home record to start this year. It's awesome. I mean, we want the Celtics to win every game that they play, but like the home games have this extra juice. They're so fun. The crowd is super into it. Obviously, everyone knows we're 19-0 at home. Best start in Celtics franchise history. Uh, so I wanted to figure out a way to gamble on it, obviously. But
You?
there are no DraftKings, futures for how long will the Celtics home streak, home win streak last. Um, so yeah, I think we're just gonna do like a gentleman's bet, right? Me and you,
Hmm.
and it's gonna be part of our major wager, pool. Uh, so the plan is we'll each bet $100, and we will try to predict when the Celtics home win streak will end, or if it will end. You could
Whoa.
theoretically pick. We will be the first team to go undefeated at home. Of course, two teams have gone 41-1.
Yep.
The 86 Celtics and the 73 win Golden State Warriors. One loss at home. That's happened twice, which is astounding in and of
That's
itself.
insane.
It's happened. And can the Celtics do it? Can they come close? Can they be the first team ever to go undefeated at home? We'll talk about it. Probably not. But yeah, so I think what Luke and I are going to do is we're going to pick just a game. We'll pick the game that we think the Celtics will lose at home, if we think they'll lose one, that will end the streak. Obviously, if you get the game exact, if you get it correct, you win. You win the other person's $100. Uh, and you also win by just getting closest to the pin. So it doesn't matter whether you've gone over or under, just closest to the pin. And if we're equally close, like let's say there are 3 home games and we each pick one on either end and they lose the middle one, right? Let's say we're both one standard deviation away from the loss, then
Yeah.
the tiebreaker will be the person who went closest without going over. Does that make sense? Like the
Yeah.
person who picked the earlier loss.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoever picked the game on the earlier side,
Right.
not so if
It's
you
unlikely
lose.
that we'll have to make that tiebreaker, but if we do, it'll be that.
Yeah. There's only a
Otherwise,
few
just the
scenarios.
closest. Yeah.
Yeah. Whew,
So
I
that's
love
it.
that. Man, that is tough. So I love this idea so much because I've been fixated also, like you said, all of Celtics Nation, fixated on the 19-0 record. We got the Spurs next. We'll talk about the slate of games coming up for the Celtics, obviously, all the home games. But I love this. So to make sure, because we want to talk about these games, to make sure that neither of us are influenced by either of our insights, what about us writing down our picks on a piece of paper right now, balling it up or folding it nicely, whatever you want to do, putting it to the side, and then we'll reveal those just so we know that we're not being influenced by each other's analysis and insight.
Yeah, I like that because we're very convincing, both of
Yeah,
us.
we are.
Um,
I
we
honestly,
want to avoid groupthink, here on Major Wager. We're individuals. I like that. So let's each write down the loss that we think is going to end the home win streak, and then we will fold it up and we'll share it at the end. Okay, let's do it.
this is tough because there's so many options that could happen. I mean, because we have a 7 straight game
I know.
home stretch
Coming up.
at the end of January and the beginning of February. So there's so many opportunities here.
Quit stalling.
I'm not stalling. Okay, I'm doing it. Oh, I can't believe I'm doing this. No, I don't want to do this. Okay.
Got mine.
Oh my God.
Dead air.
Dead air.
Could you ease up on the crackers?
I'm getting bored with this.
No, there's all right, fine. I'm just gonna do my original pick. I've been waffling between a couple, but I'm doing the original pick. Folding it up and putting
Okay.
it over here. Okay. God, I already regret it. Okay, I'm bad
Me
at
too.
betting. Let's do it. Let's talk about these games, Tim. So this week I just went over it, or I'm about to be going over the games coming up for the Celtics. We have the Spurs coming to town, and we have the Denver Nuggets coming to town. Wemby's going to be great. I'm excited to see us play against him, but honestly, I'm obviously not afraid of that being the break.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's safe to assume. Penciling that in as a W. Obviously, we got to talk about this Nuggets game. Friday in Boston, 7:30. At that point, if we beat the Spurs, which we should, the streak will be at 20. I mean, that's going to be a madhouse for that game. Friday night, there's going to be so many dudes just like drunk on Guinness, just ready to throw down, kid. Like, don't wear your Jokic jersey to that one.
Oh no.
It's gonna be nuts. I wish we could go. I mean, that's gonna be an awesome game.
Well, the good
We-
thing also about that game is there are a lot of people who are such big fans of Jokic, and the Serbian crowds
Mm,
are big. Like
yeah.
people, they go to games. Check. I don't know the numbers on it, but I saw some funny thing. I forget where I watched it. I can't give credit to the pod, but they were talking about how at away games for the Nuggets, there's always like a section of Serbians who are there just to watch Jokic. And so I think it's gonna be like a heated,
It's like in Sunny, like the people like smoking and playing poker in the basement.
yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
why is this section just smoking cigarettes and just like,
Oh, that's Jokic's section.
oh, that's Jokic. Yeah. We have not played the Nuggets yet this year. This will be the first time these two awesome teams are matching up against each other. It's just gonna be awesome. It's gonna be a great game. It's gonna be a
Yeah.
classic. I can just feel it already.
Yeah.
Just a classic.
I'm excited to see these two teams match up now that the Celtics play a lot more of group ball than they did in the past couple of years. I think it's a finals matchup, honestly. They've been the two penthouse teams for most of the year in the Hopes Hotel. So I've been waiting for this. This has been circled on my calendar.
And these crowds, I mean, they've just been so fun. And you
Huge.
know, we were mediocre at home last postseason, right?
Yeah.
I want to say we had a losing record at home in the postseason. If not, it was really close to that.
Close.
But the vibe is different in the Garden this year, and I love it. I love how, like, especially in that Minnesota game, like you could tell those fans did not want to let go of that streak, and you could tell that neither did Tatum. What was this quote? Like, we didn't feel like losing at home yet, or whatever he
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
I love it. So I think that's gonna be an awesome one. And then we have a couple games away, and then huge homestand, a seven game
games.
stand. Let's read them all in a row because this is, we have the Clippers on January 27th.
Mhm.
Then we have the Pelicans on the 29th, the Pacers again for whatever reason on the 30th,
Keep playing them.
the Lakers on the 1st, the Grizz on the 4th, and the Hawks on the 7th. And then on February 9th, we end that homestand with the Wizards. I mean, it's 7 games at home, and it's also, they're really close together. Again, January 27th, 29th, 30th, February 1st. That's, yeah.
And it's off the heels of a West Coast trip.
Yeah. A West Coast trip that's, yeah. I mean, so there's a good chance. I don't know. There's some treacherous games here. I mean, starting with that Clippers game.
Yeah.
Right. That's a team we did play. I'm sure of it.
We definitely played them, and we definitely blew them out.
Yeah, we lopsidedly won. That kind of stuff always makes me nervous, right?
Yep.
Revenge game. The Clippers, by the way, I mean, I think we talked a little bit about them a couple episodes ago, but because I said I thought Kawhi should be a starter in the All-Star team, and I still think that, and I think he probably won't be, but yeah, that team is awesome. That Clippers team is playing really well.
Yeah.
They're playing like potentially the best team in the West. Everyone seems to be, assuming their role. Russ, Harden, all these like personalities a lot of people thought wouldn't work, and it was going to be a train wreck. And at least for right now, with good health, it looks really good. So that's a scary one.
And they play surprisingly good defense too. They are 6th in the league in field goal percentage, opponent field goal percentage. So they play pretty tight defense too, that's what I did not think. Obviously they're going to play good offense. They have all this crazy talent, but they've actually been playing really well defensively.
That'll be a hard one.
Yeah.
That'll be a hard one too. That's on Saturday too. So we'll get the weekend crowd again.
Yep.
And then this Pelicans game feels like a trap game, dude. Because I
Yeah.
could see it like we win a tough, gritty game against the Clippers, and then we just drop a stupid game to New Orleans. Like that's the type of game. Just the eye roll Monday game.
Well, also look at the
Back-to-back,
dates, Timmy.
yeah.
You got 20. So that game is on the 29th. And then who do we play the next day? So that's the first leg of a back-to-back. We play the Pacers on the second night of a back-to-back. If there's any time that Tatum's going to take a rest day with his ankle or whatever, it'll be that game against New Orleans.
No
It just
way.
will be.
Not if the streak is still alive.
True. I mean,
I think
yeah.
at that point, I do think maybe I'm overstating how much I think this team cares about this streak, but I think the healthy players will play, but you'll still rest either Porzingis or Al with that back to back. So it again, Clippers 27th, Pelicans 29th, and then the back to back with the Pacers. That one, that's another tough one. And then again, 2 days later, the Lakers,
Yeah.
team that we beat. And yeah, that right there is the Bermuda Triangle of the schedule. That one has, I mean, there's not an easy game there, even that Pelicans game.
Yeah.
and they all feel like potential losses.
Yeah, and the Indiana game and the Lakers game are on TNT, which like it or love it or hate it or whatever you want to say, the Celtics don't play well when they play TNT games. It's superstitious, whatever, but for some reason we don't play well in TNT games. So that's a treacherous. You're right. Bermuda Triangle is a good thing to call that section of games.
But then, the end of the homestand is really easy. I mean, Grizzlies, Hawks, and Wizards. I mean, you could argue
but sometimes when you have a home stretch, those are like a Hawks game or something. Those are the games that you lose. Trey's playing really well, unless they trade Murray, which there's talks about them trading Murray to the Lakers. So yeah, I mean, if they trade Murray, maybe not, but the Hawks game, something like that, that's the kind of game you drop. You come up for the big ones. Wow, we just went through this gauntlet, and then all of a sudden, now we got these 3 easy ones. We have the Wizards, we have the Atlanta Hawks. We'll keep our homestand, and then Trey comes out, shoots 70% from 3, and before you know it, we're lost.
Yeah, no, I think those are the ones you lose when you take your foot off the gas. And then we have this sort of island game on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Versus the Nets. Again, we're surrounded by it's a home and home that we play the Nets. It's actually a home and home back to back. We play the Nets on February 13th in Barclays, and then we play them here the very next day. That's a weird one.
That's weird.
And then we have the All-Star break, and then the first game back from All-Star break at home, we have the Sixers, and then we have this 3-game homestand: Sixers, Mavs, Warriors. That's a tough one.
That's the toughest homestand in my opinion. Sixers, I'm not afraid of. Regular season game, Embiid playing how he is, Maxey and everybody. That's a tough team. Dallas is obviously a tough team. I don't think they play enough defense to contend with us. It's all about our shooting at that point. If we just shoot how we did against the Bucks this past week, then we might lose. But you know what I'm looking at, Timmy?
That Warriors game.
I mean,
and you know what else? You know why I'm looking at it? In addition to the fact that we obviously have problems playing this Warriors team. 3:30 Sunday.
Exactly.
I look at that as an automatic loss, kind of. I mean, I hate these 3:30 Sunday games. We seem to always lose them. I'm sure that's confirmation bias. I'm sure it's actually not true, but we come out sluggish, and this Warriors team, just
and it's like you said, the gauntlet. I mean, coming off of it's only 1 day's rest. We have 1 day between Dallas, so to think that maybe Philadelphia might go to overtime or at least be a hard-fought game. Dallas scores a lot. So, I mean, again, like these are both. It's Kyrie back in the Garden with Dallas, so it's going to be like the animosity is going to be high. It's going to be a tough game, and then you and then you have Golden State coming in just a day later.
That's brutal.
It's brutal. That's a tough stretch.
And then we finish off a lot easier at home. I mean, just to fast forward, I'm not sure any of us have gone this far. Maybe we have in our picks, but March 14th we have the Suns. That's a tough one, but that's another island home game.
Yeah.
Pistons, Bucks, and then we're down in April. Thunder, Kings, Blazers, Knicks, Hornets, Wizards, and then we're done.
We're done. Yeah, nothing too scary in that.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about those later games probably. I mean, is there anything that jumps out to you on that schedule?
No, the Celtics are playing. Obviously, the Celtics have played up to this point the toughest schedule in the NBA, and they have the easiest remaining schedule. Nothing
doesn't
stands
necessarily feel that way, by the way. I mean, like looking at the schedule, it doesn't feel that easy.
It doesn't feel like it's easy.
Yeah,
I think it's just this final stretch. I mean, I'm gonna right now read off the final 15 games. Okay, we have Detroit twice, then Chicago, Atlanta, New Orleans, Charlotte, OKC. That's tough. Kings, that's kind of tough. But then Portland, Milwaukee, New York, Charlotte, Washington. We play Washington three times in this next span. We play Detroit 2 or 3 times. So we play the bottom barrel.
Yeah,
which we haven't.
A couple tough ones with the Bucks and Thunder, but yeah, it's pretty easy. So let's talk about where we think this thing's gonna snap off. If we think it's gonna snap off, did you think I wrote undefeated here on this piece of paper?
You might have.
It's actually not.
We can get through those gauntlets.
Yeah. All right. Well, who wants to reveal first? Do you want to go first or me?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Let me go first because the reason I want to go first is because I don't love my pick. But what are you gonna do? I made the pick that I made.
I don't love
Here
mine.
it is. Piece of paper. Oh my God. What's it gonna be? Luke Irwin has the Boston Celtics home winning streak snapping like a carrot in freezing weather against the Clippers.
Yeah,
When
I
we come
knew it.
back from the West Coast
Wow.
trip. Look, here's my reason for this. So, do I think we would beat the Clippers in a 7-game series? Do I think we're better than the Clippers? Obviously. Am I afraid of the Clippers? Not necessarily. Kawhi Leonard's healthy, like you said, and he'll be back. And I think you mentioned it when we were going over the games. It scares me when you're facing a talented and veteran team after blowing them out. It's
Yeah,
never
totally.
good facing a team after blowing them out. Plus, we're going to be on the heels of going on a Texas trip with Houston and Dallas. The Dallas game will probably be tough in Dallas. Also, the Celtics are 11-9, although we're 19-0 at home right now. The Celtics are 11-9 on the road, so that's a terrible road record for a championship contending team. So there's a chance that Dallas is a tough game, and then we're in Miami
Yeah,
on
that's
TNT.
a tough road trip.
That's a tough road trip, and I just said my thoughts on. I don't like playing TNT games for some reason. I don't know if like Tatum never plays well on TNT. I don't know if he knows that he's being watched by Shaq and Chuck and them. And so he like, I don't know. I don't know if the pressure gets to him, but he never plays well. And it's Miami. It'll be a late one. And then they do have a day of rest. So they play Miami on the 25th, and then they play the Clippers back home on the 27th. So they do have the 26th as a day of rest. But I just think I think it's a little bit of a storm. I think we're going to take care of business against Denver, go up 21-0 at home, but then I think we're going to come back after a tough trip. And I just think LA is going to have too much offensive firepower. And it's almost like the Bucks game where we're a little bit like, oh God, we just like don't have that next gear for this regular season game. I also think as part of the loss, we're going to sweep that trip. I think we're going to beat Houston, Dallas, and Miami. So,
Interesting.
yeah. So I think we're going to sweep that and then come back feeling good and then drop one against the Clips.
Yeah, so I looked at that Clipper game in my head. I just closed my eyes and I just like saw the big red L. Like I'm with you. And did I write it down? No, I did not. So I have a different one, but I was really close to it. I think.
Yeah.
Looking at the schedule, I also think that we're gonna sort of hold court. We're gonna hold serve rather against the Spurs and Nuggets.
Yep.
Obviously, the Nuggets game isn't easy. I don't know. It just feels like I feel comfortable predicting a win there.
Yeah.
And then this stretch, and it's kind of like to me, we either lose one of those first 3 games or we win them all.
Yeah.
And that Clipper game, and like I said, that Pelicans Pacers, either one of those feel like potential losses. But I picked.
Reveal.
I like the slow reveal. It's cool. You can see it. The Sixers.
Oh.
All right. So
I don't know if I showed mine. I should show mine real quick.
There you go. Show your great handwriting. This one's ambitious. I probably yeah, we'll lose this bet. I'm thinking now. I mean, it'd be really impressive, right? If we won
Crazy impressive.
9 home games, that would make 28 straight. That would put 41-1 in play.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I think we do weather like tough games from the Clippers, weird games from the Pelicans and Pacers. We outlast that road trip. And then what I'm thinking is like the post All-Star break letdown.
Yeah.
We're gonna have 2 guys, hopefully, in that game. I think Derek White's bid is sort of over, by the way. We can check in on that. I mean, like we talked about it, but he just hasn't been as good. He went on JJ Redick's podcast. He's got the post Redick slump, which happened last year, is happening this year.
Happens every time. Yep.
No, he's still playing all right, but just not all-star level necessarily. He had to finish pretty damn astounding. But I feel like, yeah, that Sixers team is going to be tough to play. They always have an axe to grind against us. And I just looked at the schedule. I said I could pick like one of these Clippers games, like games, but I want to root for the longest possible streak.
Yeah.
And so that one felt like, I'm not going, we're going to go undefeated or we're going to win the next 20 home games, but February 27th. So that's a long time from now.
It's a long time. So that was one of mine. That was one of mine circled because I think the Sixers they're going to make a move at the trade deadline, I think.
Oh, for sure. They should. I mean,
they need to.
They certainly will. I'd like to. We should discuss sort of trade deadline stuff in one of the next pods,
Yeah.
but yeah, they surely will. Yeah, they're gonna be great. They're already good, but they're gonna be great if they fill in some gaps in that roster.
Just logistically, I'm feeling pretty good about my pick because if we do lose to the Denver Nuggets,
That's a
I'm
win for you.
closest, right? So, I mean, it's tough. And then if we lose any of those 7-game stretches, then
Yeah.
I also win. So, like, I love your pick. I love the optimism. And we might lose that game against the Sixers, even though I'm all the teams that are good in this league, they are the team I'm least afraid of. But that is the kind of game we drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. I want to talk about, I thought you for sure were going to pick that Atlanta game.
Yeah, no, that's possible. Yeah, I think that you flagged that as a potential L on February 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you said this earlier in the pod. Like, I think last year, one of our biggest problems was falling asleep and underestimating opponents and thinking, well, this is an easy one.
Yeah.
This year's team just like absolutely destroys bad opponents.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have as many examples of just, I think you have a couple from this year, and not that the Magic are a bad team, but like, that
They were
loss,
good when we played them.
they're a good team. I shouldn't say that, but against what we view as sort of mediocre, non-contending teams. Last year, the Celtics had a tendency to just go, oh, this is a win, and then we would lose, and it's like, oh, you have to show up and play the game. This year, I feel like our mentality, and maybe it comes from maturity from Tatum and Brown, or maybe it comes from Holiday or some of the new guys, but like, or maybe we know how good we are. We surely do. But we put teams away. So that Hawks team, that Hawks game on February 7th, a little bit, but we're doing a really good job of just showing up and winning the games we're supposed to win this year.
Yeah.
Though I'm with you in general. So we picked on opposite ends of the spectrum. Your pick, like you said, is probably smarter than mine, but yeah, let's go.
But my pick is good, but the reason I was waffling is because I thought, so the thing with the Clippers game is we come back from that trip, right? I think we're going to win outright, come home, maybe let go of the rope a little bit and lose to the Clippers. But we very well could lose to Dallas. Luka Doncic goes off for 50 and 13 and 8. And then we could obviously lose to Miami because Miami shouldn't even be an NBA basketball team because I hate playing them so much. They always seem to get, the edge on us. So we could easily crush the Clippers because we're coming off of 2 bad losses. Yeah. But we'll see. I love this anticipation. This is going to be great. I mean, like you said, the home crowd has been better than I've seen it in a long time. And the Celtics fans, all you Celtics fans out there, you're very smart. Celtics fans are very smart. So they know when a team is worth going nuts for. And since January, honestly, the crowds, Hannah and I, my wife and I were watching a movie. My wife and I were not watching a movie. We were watching a Celtics game, but it seemed like the movie because it was such a inspirational crowd. It seemed like a sports movie, but we were like commenting on, I think it was against, I don't even remember, Pistons, maybe. It was that good Pistons game right out the gate in 2024, where the Pistons were trying to win snap their losing streak.
That was a good one.
And the crowd was nuts. For that game, like a playoff game. And I've watched basically every single game for the past 15 years, and it's a different crowd. It's a different level.
I can't wait to get to a game. We haven't been to the Garden yet this year, but I can't wait. I mean, I'm looking at this homestand. I'm gonna buy some tickets, but they're gonna be expensive because
good.
Well, yeah.
Oh wait, never mind. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, that's I think we did it.
I think we did it. I think we did do it. I think we did it.
I think we did it, baby.
We done did it. Let's go ahead and lock those in. So I have the Clippers game being the first game that the Boston Celtics lose at home. And I'm not saying they won't go 40-1. I'm not saying that Clippers loss might be the only loss.
Sure.
But I think it's going to be the first loss of the season. And you had the Sixers, correct?
Yep. And again, both of us just wagering $100. Let's just a gentleman's wager, just a simple, straightforward bet among boys, frankly, not men.
All right. Well, we've reached the end of this. Let's go ahead and sign off. But I love this. I'm super excited to see who wins. And Next week, tune in for another major wager. We'll be back on regular betting for next week. But for now, we got the gentleman's bet, $100 each. I got the Clippers. You got the Sixers beating the Celtics at home for the first time. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. Peace, dude.
Bye.
Yes, another successful episode of Major Wager under our belt. That was another great one. Let me know if you guys like these segments going a little bit longer, doing the new games and drafts and stuff like that with this new pick coming up. I'm certainly enjoying it. So if you listening like it, let me know, because your feedback is always super appreciated and super important as well. Yeah, so that's about it. But before I wrap up, as I always do, I'm going to give some games coming up around the NBA that I think are cool, important, going to be fun to watch this week coming up, along with the Celtics slate of games. So let's go ahead and do that. I do that every single episode. So honestly, we're going to jump straight to Tuesday, skip Monday. Around the NBA, all of the games on Tuesday are awesome. They're awesome. So we have Denver at Philadelphia. Great. If Philadelphia can get over the hump, that's a potential finals matchup. That's big on big. That's going to be Jokic versus Embiid. That's going to be just incredible. That's on TNT at 7:30 on Tuesday, the 16th. And then Sacramento at Phoenix. Again, Battle of the West. That's another great game. That's at 9. And then finally on Tuesday, Oklahoma City travels to the Clippers. So we got Shea going up against that three-headed monster in LA if Kawhi is available. And that's going to be at 10 p.m. also on TNT. And then we're going to jump all the way to Thursday, because Thursday is a really great matchup. Indiana Pacers at Sacramento Kings. That's at 10 o'clock at night. That's going to be a fun one. Two of the highest pace NBA teams going at each other. The Indiana Pacers are number 1 in pace, and the Kings, I forget where they are, but they're high in pace too. So that's going to be a fast-paced, fun game to go see. And then on Friday, Dallas goes to Golden State. Luka Magic versus Curry. Chef's going to be cooking, and the Wizard's going to be doing his thing as well. So that's going to be another really fun game to watch. And then finally on Saturday, maybe the game of the week for me that I'm going to be watching outside of the Celtics games is the Oklahoma City the Thunder go to the Minnesota Timberwolves at 8 o'clock. So that's going to be a fantastic game. Maybe two of the top teams besides the Denver Nuggets in the West. Oklahoma City Thunder at Minnesota Timberwolves. That'll just be fun. That'll be fireworks. So that's going to be a great game. Now let's go ahead and roll out the games for the Boston Celtics in this upcoming week. Got some good ones this week. We start out tonight against the Toronto Raptors at 7:30 in Toronto. So that should be an interesting one. They always play us pretty tough. And then we jump to Wednesday, back in Boston, back in Beantown. Victor Wembanyama comes to town, and the San Antonio Spurs take on to the Boston Celtics. Let's see if the Boston Celtics can go 20-0 at home. It's going to be an exciting one. Obviously, Victor Wembanyama, box office. It'll be fun to watch. Can Derek White or Drew Holiday get a block on Victor Wembanyama? That would be the ultimate block party. So looking forward to that. And then Friday, a potential finals match on ESPN. The Denver Nuggets come to Boston, and this is going to be obviously a super fun game. So looking forward to that one. And then finally on Sunday, we go to Houston to play the Rockets yet again to see if the Rockets can't get some revenge. We are going to be ready to go to see Ime in Ime's house. So yeah, those are the games. Those are the games around the league and for the Boston Celtics. I'm about done. That's it for me. Right? I hope you enjoyed. I'm glad you listened. And tune in next week for us to discuss all the things happening in this upcoming week for the Celtics and around the NBA. This has been super fun, everybody. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's it. This has been the Dribble.